Features of the American system, and this goes way back to the beginning. We have a lay board. We have a board composed of people who are from the community. Now, some of them may be from the university, but that's incidental if they are. And these are features of the American system way back when it was started. A strong president. Remember, the president used to be the #1 influence at a higher education institution. A weak professorate. Not very powerful in terms of the president. An internal administration. These are the vice presidents and the deans and the department heads, etc. Not related to that lay board. So in essence, you got the internal advisors and you got the external advisors, sometimes flack. Absence of a national governing body. The federal government does not have an agency which gives ironclad rules to colleges and universities. It's the power of the market. And so colleges and universities are constantly schlepping themselves, trying to appeal to what the public wants. Back to that anything and everything that was the downfall of the academies and the early colleges and universities. And everything is tied to something known as credits. So let's go over each of them slightly. The lay board. It's external and largely non-academic. Born from necessity. England was not the answer. We had to make up our own answer. We had no time to develop a community of scholars, therefore we had to create ourselves. So it was created by individuals. And it was composed of busy community leaders. Membership was probably for life, and in many cases could be willed to the next generation. This is not so today. This is the way it was when we first started. And that lay board is somewhat immune to the government. Remember, no national university, no national control. Therefore, it doesn't matter what they say. We can do here in Texas exactly what we want to do. The strong president, you look around, you could always find a dynamic clergyman, young clergyman, who could act as president of the institution if you were going to find one. Typically a member or a student of the clergy. This is the Oxford-Cambridge model. Remember, this is an ecclesiastic university. This person taught. This person managed the tutors, sometimes giving them scandalous beatings and getting fired for it. This person handled discipline. This person did everything. That's why they had so much power. That's why they were strong. For over 150 years, the presidency was the only secure and sustained position in higher education. Hence the power. Do you remember Dallas from way back when? Remember Jock Ewing? Jock Ewing said, I guess he said it to JR, the only real power is that which you take. So keep that in mind throughout life. The weak professorate. 150 years in the wilderness. That's when all those strong presidents were ruling. In a society that prized action and success, the scholar was regarded as a rather passive individual who avoided the rigors of life. He was introverted. He was bookish. I guess we could start to say he, she. The image of the college professor is still somewhat pejorative or comic. The absent-minded professor who forgets everything. Although the status of the professor has grown, it has been as a function of time. We've been around so long that we're starting to get a little power. Not as the result of any action or distinction. Again, the only real power is that which you take, and the American Professorate has not stood up and said, we are in charge. Internal administration. This is the extension of the power of the president, through the vice president, through the deans, through the department heads, etc., etc., etc. All the king's men. Keeping the administrative staff within the university has helped preserve autonomy in the face of state authority. And this is somewhat true today. We have periods of time when we're strong and we have periods of time when we're weak. I think if we can get together with the other universities, it helps. The state will make some pronouncement, and the university will either follow that or will stonewall it. Well, keeping the administrative staff within the university has helped us kind of retain our own identity in the face of the many charges from on high that come down from the state authority, the federal authority. Absence of a governing body. Nobody at the top. That's made us nimble. We can go with the flow, if you will. It has also made us a bit gullible, faddish, and me too-ish. You know, nobody is up at the top given the rules that everyone has to follow. That means if someone out there in the community says, hey, we'd like this, and we think, wow, we can get a little more tuition money if we do that, then we might be tempted to do that. Hence the gullible, faddish, me too-ish. In the attempt to become everything for everybody, we have cheapened our product. Now, I said something like that in one of my publications. I've never been able to find out where it was. When I find it, I will come back and give myself credit for it. But that's something that it's a strike against universities. We are just too accommodating. And in trying to be the answer to a maiden's prayer, we are often nothing at all. The empire strikes back. This is the federal government trying to rectify now what happened when it never established rule to begin with. Federal aid to education. You want this money? Conform. Grant programs. You want this money? Conform. Student loans. You want this money? Conform. The Health, Education, and Welfare Department. Education is now part of the Department of Education, so we're our own person, but they don't rule with an iron hand. Accountability? Do you bump up against that? That's the state and the government, again, trying to keep us on track and above board. Certification? One of the wonderful things about college teaching, I thought when I first got here, was there were no certificates. You didn't have to know anything in order to be a dean or to be a college president, for that matter. You simply had to get the vote of the Board of Trustees. There was no certification. You didn't have to have a certificate. You didn't have to hand in your dean's certificate in order to be a dean, your vice president's certificate in order to be a vice president. Well, now it's getting to be that way. Now we don't necessarily have certificates, but in order to do this, you have to have so many courses in such and such a subject field. I think we just ought to let the brightest, smartest people rule and let them learn on the job. I don't think people with certificates know anything more than people without certificates, but don't tell anyone I said that. Power of the market.